The Valorian Council had debated for 3 standard cycles before reaching their decision. Humanity was expanding too quickly. Their colonies spread across the outer rim like a disease. Their mining stations pulled resources from asteroids that the Valorian Empire had claimed centuries ago. Something had to be done, but open war was not an option. The humans had proven themselves dangerous in direct combat. Their ships were crude but effective. Their soldiers fought with a madness that disturbed even the most battle-hardened Valorian commanders. Ambassador Kelthus proposed a different approach. He stood before the council with his silver scales gleaming under the chamber lights. His voice was calm and measured as he explained his plan. They would not attack humanity directly. Instead, they would cripple their infrastructure, sabotage their stations, destroy their supply lines. Without resources, the human expansion would collapse on itself. They would retreat to their homeworld and trouble the Empire no more. The Council approved the plan unanimously. Within 6 standard months, Valorian agents had infiltrated 17 human space stations. They worked as maintenance crews and cargo handlers. They learned the layout of human technology and identified critical weaknesses. On a single coordinated day, they struck. Oxygen systems failed on Station Prometheus. The reactor went critical on Orbital Platform 7. Life support collapsed on the mining hub at Kepler 442b. Communications arrays across the sector went dark. 47,000 human civilians died in a single day. The Valorian Council celebrated their success. They had shown humanity the cost of challenging the Empire. They expected fear. They expected surrender. They expected the humans to beg for mercy and retreat from contested space. They received silence. For 3 weeks, no human ship entered Valorian space. No messages were sent. No demands were made. The Council grew confident. They believed their plan had worked perfectly. Ambassador Kelthus received honors and promotions. The Empire began plans to reclaim the abandoned human territories. Then the silence ended. Admiral Catherine Chun sat in the command chair of the UE's Retribution. Around her, 1,200 warships formed the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. Every ship had been pulled from every corner of human space. Civilian transports had been armed with military weapons. Mining vessels had been converted into bombardment platforms. Even the old colony ships from the first expansion had been retrofitted with plasma cannons. Admiral Chun looked at the holographic display showing the Valorian home system. 3 habitable worlds orbited their star. Valoria Prime held 8 billion citizens. Valoria Secundus housed their industrial centers. Valoria Tertius was their agricultural breadbasket. Together, they formed the heart of an empire that had dominated this region of space for over 1,000 years. Admiral, her tactical officer, spoke. All ships report ready. We are awaiting your orders. Chun did not respond immediately. She thought about the 47,000 names that had been read aloud in the United Earth Parliament. She thought about the children who had suffocated when the oxygen failed. She thought about the families who had burned when the reactors exploded. She thought about the promises that had been made to the grieving survivors. Open a channel to the Valorian High Command, she ordered. The communication officer worked quickly. Within moments, the confused face of a Valorian admiral appeared on the main screen. His scales flickered between colors as he processed what he was seeing. A human fleet of impossible size had appeared at the edge of his home system without warning. This is Admiral Catherine Chun of the United Earth Navy, she said. Her voice was flat and cold. 3 weeks ago, your agents murdered 47,000 of our civilians. You destroyed our stations. You crippled our infrastructure. You believed this would make us afraid. You believed we would surrender. She paused and let her words sink in. You were wrong. The Valorian admiral attempted to respond, but Chun continued speaking. Your saboteurs disabled our stations. Now our fleet will disable your planets. This is not a negotiation. This is not a threat. This is a notification of what is about to happen. You have 6 hours to evacuate your civilian populations to designated safe zones. After that time, we will begin our bombardment. The transmission ended. The Valorian admiral immediately contacted his government. Emergency meetings were held. Evacuation orders were issued. But 6 hours was not enough time. It was never meant to be enough time. It was a gesture of mercy that humanity offered, but did not expect to be accepted. The bombardment began exactly 6 hours later. The human fleet did not target cities directly. They were not monsters. Instead, they targeted infrastructure. Power plants were destroyed first. The lights went dark across 3 worlds. Next came the communication networks. The Valorians found themselves isolated and unable to coordinate. Water treatment facilities followed, then transportation hubs, then manufacturing centers. Within 12 hours, the Valorian Empire's home system had been reduced to a pre-industrial state. Admiral Chun watched the destruction from her command chair. She felt no joy in what she was doing. This was not revenge. This was a lesson. The galaxy needed to understand that humanity would not accept attacks on their civilians. There would always be a response. There would always be consequences. The Valorian military attempted to fight back. Their home defense fleet consisted of over 300 warships. They were well-trained and well-equipped. They had defended their home system against countless threats over the centuries. They lasted 4 hours against the human fleet. Human tactics were unlike anything the Valorians had encountered. Their ships did not fight in neat formations. They swarmed like insects. They attacked from multiple angles simultaneously. They sacrificed damaged vessels to protect their stronger ships. They fought with a coordination that seemed almost psychic. The Valorian flagship was destroyed by a coordinated strike from 17 human vessels. The attack lasted less than 30 seconds. One moment, the massive warship was commanding the defense. The next moment, it was debris floating in space. By the end of the first day, the Valorian home fleet had been reduced to scattered remnants. Survivors fled to the outer planets. Some attempted to hide in asteroid fields. Most were hunted down and destroyed. The humans showed no mercy to military targets, but they showed unexpected restraint toward civilians. Human medical ships entered orbit around Valoria Prime. They deployed shuttles carrying emergency supplies. Food and water were distributed to evacuation centers. Medical teams treated the wounded. Engineers worked to restore basic power to hospitals and emergency shelters. This confused the Valorians deeply. High Counselor Dexon demanded an explanation. He was granted a communication with Admiral Chun. The old politician appeared on her screen with fear in his eyes. His scales had turned a pale gray color that indicated extreme stress. "Why do you help our people while destroying our world?" he asked. "This makes no sense." Admiral Chun considered her response carefully. "We are not at war with your civilians," she explained. "We are at war with your government. Your leaders made the decision to murder our people. Your leaders believed that attacking civilians was an acceptable form of warfare. We are demonstrating that such beliefs have consequences. But you are destroying everything we have built," Dexon protested. "Our civilization will take centuries to recover." "Yes," Chun agreed. "That is the point. Your civilization attacked our civilians. Now your civilization pays the price. But your people will survive. They will rebuild. And perhaps, when they rebuild, they will choose leaders who understand that some lines should never be crossed." The communication ended. Dexon returned to his council chambers to find chaos. Several counselors were already attempting to flee the system. Others were demanding immediate surrender. Ambassador Kelthus, the architect of the sabotage plan, was found dead in his quarters. Whether he had taken his own life or been killed by angry colleagues was never determined. The bombardment continued for 7 days. By the end of the week, The Valorian home system had been completely neutralized. No military assets remained. No industrial capacity existed. No communication networks functioned. The proud empire that had dominated this region for a millennium had been reduced to 3 planets full of survivors struggling to maintain basic services. Admiral Chun addressed the galaxy on the final day of the operation. Her message was broadcast on every frequency. It was transmitted to every known civilization. It was recorded and stored in databases across known space. "Let this be a message to all who would threaten humanity," she said. "We do not seek war. We do not desire conquest. We wish only to live in peace and pursue our own destiny among the stars. But we will not accept attacks on our civilians. We will not tolerate acts of terrorism against our people. Those who cross this line will face consequences beyond their imagination." She paused and looked directly into the camera. The Valorian Empire believed they could cripple humanity with cowardly sabotage. They believed we would crumble and retreat. Instead, we have demonstrated the truth. Attack our stations, and we will disable your planets. Attack our civilians, and we will unmake your civilization. This is not a threat. This is a promise. And humanity always keeps its promises. The transmission ended. The human fleet began its withdrawal from Valorian space. In the following years, no civilization attempted to replicate the Valorian strategy. The lesson had been learned. Humanity was not a species to be trifled with. They built their stations larger and stronger than before. They expanded further into the galaxy. They made friends and allies among races that valued peace and cooperation. But they never forgot what had happened. Every year, on the anniversary of the sabotage, humanity observed a day of remembrance. The names of the 47,000 victims were read aloud once again. Memorial services were held on every colony and station. And in military academies across human space, young officers were taught the history of what had happened. They learned that mercy was a virtue, but weakness was a death sentence. They learned that peace was preferable, but victory was essential. They learned that humanity would always extend an open hand to those who approached in friendship. But those who raised weapons against human civilians would face the closed fist of the Imperial fleet. The galaxy understood this truth, and the galaxy remembered. Centuries later, historians would debate whether humanity's response had been proportionate. Some argued that the destruction of the Valorian home system was excessive. Others maintained that such overwhelming retaliation was necessary to establish a lasting deterrent. The debate continued endlessly in academic circles. But one fact remained beyond dispute. After the Valorian incident, no alien power ever again attempted to use sabotage or terrorism against human civilian populations. The lesson had been learned. The message had been received. And humanity's place among the stars had been secured through the most terrible demonstration of military power the galaxy had ever witnessed. Admiral Catherine Chun retired from active service 5 years after the operation. She spent her remaining decades writing about military ethics and the responsibilities of command. Her memoirs became required reading at every military academy in human space. She died peacefully at the age of 93, surrounded by family and honored by a grateful civilization. Her final words, recorded by her granddaughter, became famous throughout human space. "I hope no one ever has to do what I did," she said. "But if they do, I hope they remember why we did it. Not for revenge, not for glory, but to ensure that no human child would ever again die because our enemies believed us weak. That was worth any price. That was worth everything." The stars continued to shine. Humanity continued to expand. And the lesson of the Valorian incident was never forgotten.